Welcome to Talking in Common, a podcast of all things lifestyle, family, relationships, well-being, kids and culture. This is not a how-to, but an insight into the lives of ourselves and others and how we all manage to get by. Hosted by myself, Kate Gadinsky, and my co-host, Sophie Panton. Take a listen and let's find out what we all have in common. Welcome back, my love.
Here we are. Thank you. I feel like I deserve that welcome back. I've come back as a new woman and mother.
Yay! But hang on. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about what we have in common today. And I think that you need to talk to everybody about what you and I have in common today.
Well, my dear friend, we are now both mothers of 2 children.
Yay! Congratulations, my darling.
Thanks, babe. Thank you. I'm here on the other side of childbirth. Whew.
Welcome. How are you feeling, my darling?
I'm good. I'm about a month in now and I'm settling into it. You know, my boobs have settled down, the milk flow's happening, little baby boy Ren is doing really well. My tenderness after the birth is just all starting to settle and the sleep deprivation is setting in nicely.
It's only the beginning. I'm kidding. It's so amazing and I'm so happy for you guys and that your beautiful baby boy is here safely earthside. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it's truly such a precious time in life. But I'm not going to divulge too much today because today is about a great guest episode that we did record a few weeks ago, and I will divulge all the details of the birth and the first few weeks with you guys in the next episode. So
I'll make sure we get all the good bits out of her, guys. I cannot wait.
So yes, so happy to announce that little baby boy is here, and more details on that coming soon. But yeah, we do have that in common now, my love. Mothers of 2 kids.
Yes, we are now finally on the same
playing field.
Same playing field.
One parent to one child.
Oh, and how, actually, I'm not going to ask you any questions. Stop me. Don't allow me to ask you the questions today. I need to save them all in my memory bank. So we do have another fantastic guest episode today with the incredible Jess Hatzis.
Love Jess. Wasn't she great?
She was so great. And I think before we kind of, get into our chat with her, it would be good to touch on something that came up in our conversation that Jess talked about, which was finding a rhythm rather than finding balance when you become a mum or a parent.
Yeah, she literally talked about that at the very end of the episode. So stay tuned for this great advice that she gave us, which really stuck with us, didn't it? We were talking about it afterwards.
I think, it makes a lot of sense because, balance, I guess, requires everything to be equal, whereas rhythm allows for change, variance.
Ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and I think it allows you to be sort of truer to yourself and what works for you, as well as flexibility. And I think in return, you then kind of find your balance. Does that make sense?
Totally. I think she described it as like balance doesn't really exist with motherhood and everything else in life that comes along with being a mum, whereas rhythm is exactly that. It allows flexibility. It allows you to be more accepting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of ups and downs and ebbs and flows and peaks and troughs. So great piece of advice and something that we've been sort of living by a little bit since then. So thanks, Jess. Love that little slice of advice.
You're trying to find your rhythm as a mum of 2?
I definitely am now, yeah. And it's a whole new rhythm now, of course, And also when you've got a newborn in the house, your life, you are in this little bubble, and your life does change for some time. You are at home a lot, feeding a lot, it's a different stage of your life. And I do remind myself every day. And because I have been through this phase once before, and because we have discussed and heard so many other people's stories and explored so much to do with this phase, like I'm so much more accepting of the rhythm, and not trying to force a balance or force this period to be over or complete or finished, because it's just part of life, and it is and it's a beautiful phase of life, and finding the rhythm is something that works really well, I think.
You've sort of just got to kind of go with it, go with the flow a little bit at the beginning, don't you, until you kind of find that rhythm, which will come eventually. Your own rhythm will come, and what your rhythm is would be different to what mine was when I had my second baby. Everyone is so different. I was actually thinking a lot about rhythm prior to clicking record today, and I was sort of comparing it in a musical sense. So think about a fast song you love and a slow song that you love. They're probably both great songs, but often you feel like listening to them at different times. So one's
Yeah.
no better than the other. They're just different. So,
Yes.
but they both follow a beat. So in life, we can use the word, I guess, to compare to this, like routine or balance. However, one is slower, one is faster, but they still stick to the beat. But you just need different things at different times. So at nighttime, you might have had a few drinks. You want to listen to like a really upbeat song, but then sometimes in the morning, you want to like slowly cruise into the day. I'm probably sounding really woo-woo now, a bit crazy, but it makes sense, right?
Makes
It's
total
all about the
sense. I
rhythm.
love that, babe. I love that. And it's true. Like what you said about like your rhythm's different to mine too.
Yeah.
So the worst thing that we can do is look at someone else and be like, oh, they're doing everything. How have they got it all together? Or, they're just in a different rhythm. They're on a different song.
Yep, they're on a totally different song. Okay, so I'm not that crazy. As I was saying that, I'm like, does this make sense? It makes sense in my own head.
Yeah, well, of course, you're a singer, you're a musician at heart, my love.
Oh, those were the days.
You know what's funny? I'm actually drinking my coffee out of my keep cup today, and it just reminded me how we had a little chat to Jess about how many times we microwave our coffees these days as mums or as parents.
Is your keep cup one of those ones that keeps it hot?
Yes, it keeps it hot, and I'm fucking sick of microwaving my coffee. So now there's another life hack for you. I just make my coffee at home in my keep cup, and it keeps it hot. Actually, another great tip that someone gave me, if anyone else listening is in this postpartum stage, I make a really big like a liter bottle of tea. What's it called that keeps like a tea hot? A furnace?
Furnace. No, not a furnace, a thermos.
Thermos. Thermos.
A thermos.
Shit, has saved me now. I make a thermos of tea, and it keeps my tea hot like all day. So I just keep going back to it.
Who would have thought?
I know. A beautiful doula taught me that trick.
Mum hack. That's a good one.
It's a good one, right? Anyway, back to Jess. She shared so much great stuff. I loved how honest she was about her career and needing and wanting to go back to work, and about that being part of her identity, and how fulfilling that is for her, and how that makes her a better person and a better mum. I think that's really honest. And I think a lot of women that do choose to go back to work that are really honest about that, it's really important to just, and it's really refreshing just to be really honest about that. And I think there was a couple of other great things that we chatted about, even though we're all sick of talking about the pandemic and we have moved on a lot in some ways. We did talk a lot about how much those differences have shifted our lives now, and what that is like to work from home and to do so much from home, and to be somewhat juggling parenting with working. And was really interesting to hear her perspectives on that as a business owner.
She was so generous with all that she shared, actually, Jess. She was so open and honest.
Oh, yeah. Another really good point that she made, like from a business owner's perspective, was that we need to be more educated as a society, really, for parents coming back into the workforce after having kids, and how she's sort of taking more responsibility within her own business to progress that and change that now that she's experienced it herself.
It's so important because you hear so many women and men as well, but so many women saying that they just do not feel supported when they go back to work after having a baby. And, it makes that transition just so hard. And I think, it is a really important one, and something that all businesses should really be taking into consideration and have something in place so that women do feel supported and encouraged to want to actually go back to work and feel good about it, feel good about their decision and feel supported, which is the main point.
Yeah, it's a really tough transition. So I love that part of our.
So interestingly, like speaking about going back to work, there's something that we touched on, I think in one of our season 1 episodes. So that feels like God knows how long ago, a long time ago. There was a study by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis that mothers with at least 2 kids are the most productive of all. And the study found that over the course of a 30-year career, mothers outperform women without children. Adding that the correlation between the number of children and on-the-job productivity is true for men too, but it's even more pronounced in women. It also said that not only do parents accomplish more, they also generally make better leaders because parents tend to perform better in the workplace, especially in managerial roles, because they know how to multitask, cope with stress, and negotiate.
True that.
Yeah, right?
So relevant to what we were chatting to Jess about too, because I think she talks about that her business partner and her have this motto that, you know, if you need something done, give it to a busy person. And we all know that mothers are very busy people. So, yeah, interesting study. But it was particularly about parents of 2.
Yeah, it said that, it says particularly mothers of at least 2 kids.
Oh, at least 2 kids. Yeah, right. Okay, well, I'm in that realm now.
You're about to get super, super duper productive.
It's so true though. Like any mother will say that, you know, you almost learn to be more organized. You're forced to be more organized, more productive. The busier you are, the more things you get done. Like
we've got just the same amount of time, but you've got more shit you need to get done. So you just have to do it. I thought that was interesting, so I thought I would share that with everybody.
Very interesting. All right, well, let's
introduce our incredible guest, Jess Hatzis. She is the co-founder of Willow and Blake Agency, Frank Body, and mother to her little girl, Ellery. We spoke with Jess all about the combination of her career and motherhood, how the pandemic and working from home played out for her as a business owner and a mum. Also, how the building of her incredible, successful global brand, Frank Body, played out, and her business for her and her business partners. And she also generously opened up and shared her personal experience with pregnancy loss. Jess is the kindest soul and such a powerhouse, and we loved having her join us. We know you'll enjoy her too. Here she is.
Jess, a big warm welcome to Talking in Common. We're actually both so thrilled to have you on the podcast today. You've been on our guest wish list for quite some time. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, ladies. I'm very excited to chat with you today.
We cannot wait, Jess. We are very interested in hearing, all about how the pandemic and working from home has played out for you as a business owner and, of course, as a brand new mum. But we will get into all of that a little bit later. The first question we love to ask all of our guests is, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I had a few things that I wanted to be, but like every child, I thought I was going to be a marine biologist, and I still don't know how that made its way into like the top 5 things that we all wanted to be. I've never met anyone that's actually a marine biologist in my life. Where did this come from?
You're so right, though. A lot of people do say that, don't they?
Yeah. My daughter wants to be, like I said, she wants to be a marine biologist at some point.
Yeah.
So it's still happening. Great.
Yeah.
Still a thing.
Then I really wanted to be a dancer. So I was a dancer for a lot of my life. For about 18 years. I absolutely loved it. The performing arts was such a big part of my life growing up. And then I realised I wasn't good enough. So stopped pursuing that dream and spent a lot of my late teens having absolutely no idea what it was I wanted to do, and even my early 20s, to be perfectly honest. And I sort of fumbled my way into the career I have now.
Yeah, well, we want to talk to you all about that because you have an incredible career journey. But I remember meeting you for the first time, or like properly for the first time. It must have been around 2011 or 2012. You just moved into a new place in St Kilda with your boyfriend at the time, who was a friend of mine, and you had us over for a lovely dinner. And I remember this because I got to know you a bit better that night, and you know, you're like incredibly ambitious and entrepreneurial nature really left an impact on me then. And you were doing all this cool stuff. You were DJing. I think you were just about to start, or you had just started Willow and Blake, your branding agency. I want you to tell us a little bit about this time in your life, like what had got you to this point and what were your hopes for your career at this stage?
I remember that night so well.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Because it was such a memorable time in my life too. Like, I'm so lucky to still have that person, my ex-boyfriend, in my life and be one of my closest friends now. And we went through this kind of journey into adulthood together. The first time you move in with your boyfriend and hosting dinner parties, and I reflect on the stuff that we cooked. You could barely call it food. Between the two of us, we were lucky if we could chop something properly.
There would have been good wine, that's for sure.
There was always good wine. Yeah, we were good at wine. Yeah. And you're right. I had just launched Willow and Blake and about, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 months earlier. So I had very little in the way of steady income. But I'd been working at my previous job for about 2.5 years, and I loved working there. I learned so much from the people that employed me, and I got to work directly with the 2 founders. And it was that kind of moment upon realizing that I loved what they did and I wanted to be doing that rather than working for people. I wanted to be the person driving that decision making. And we'd noticed a real gap in the market when it came to copywriting and people actually putting as much emphasis on that as they did on design, and that, knowing the two work best when there's love and attention poured into both. So we took a leap of faith, and I think thankfully being in our early 20s helped us be completely naive to what was about to come. And there wasn't as much risk involved really, because we didn't have a family to be responsible for at the time. It was very much a individual venture. I remember those days and living in that apartment and just living, can't even call it paycheck to paycheck because there was no paycheck. It was basically when a little bit of money came into the agency, we'd split it up. We weren't even putting enough aside for tax at that point, so we had to go and backtrack all of that about a year later. But it was such a it is all part of it. Like, we had no idea what we were doing. It was such
learning
a fun
along the way.
Life. We were learning so much along the way, but it was the best adventure.
You were studying creative writing, or you're a creative writer, right?
Yeah, by trade.
You have to be.
Copywriter.
Copywriter.
It's what I love, and I don't do as much of it anymore because of the way that my roles have evolved. Now I'm sitting a lot more in, I guess, the strategy and business admin side of things, which I still really love. And it's really nice to kind of nurture that next generation of writers coming through. But yeah, that is where I started as a copywriter, and that was how Willow and Blake grew, and it was eventually how Frank Body was born because of our desire to write something fun.
So can we talk about Frank Body for a minute? Can you give us a little bit of a background on, I guess, how it did all come about? Like, where did it begin and how did it kind of get to where it is today?
Yes, so Frank Body was born in 2013. There was a few of us involved in that originally. So myself, Alex, Steve, Bree, and Erica. The 3 women, we were running Willow and Blake, the creative agency, together. And we'd had so many clients come through. They wanted risky, they wanted different, and that's what we were known for. And then when you gave them that idea, they would run in the opposite direction because they were too scared to commit to something that they hadn't seen out in market before. Yep. And it was a little disheartening. You're both creative people as well. You know what this is like, that like once you put so much love into an idea and you really want to see it brought to fruition. On the other side of things, we were really interested in this emerging e-commerce space at the time and had a real desire to play in that. So we were trying to merge all of these ideas, this want to really take something from beginning to end and own the creative. And, we knew we could grow something if we had that chance. We had personal interests in health and wellness and looking at how we could make better choices for our lives and our bodies. And then, led very much by Alex, we knew that we wanted to do something in e-commerce and looking at how we could create, the next DTC business and use social media to play in that space. So all these things came together and created what then became Frank Body. And we launched with such humble aspirations. I remember Alex and I were at the pub the night we launched thinking, oh yeah, like we'll be lucky if we sell 2 or 3 scrubs. And then we got these notifications on Shopify that we'd sold out. I remember leaving our Palmers halfway through and running home going, shit, what are we going to do? How do we make this work? We've got to make more scrub. We've oversold what we made. And that was how it all started. We were making everything by hand. It was very humble beginnings, like elbow deep in coffee until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Why coffee scrub? Because I love the story behind how the actual product came about.
Yeah, so that was Steve. He was the genius behind the actual product that we launched. We always like to say that Steve makes money out of coffee every way he can. He owned a series of cafes in Melbourne. He still has a bit of he still plays in the hospitality industry, but at the time that was his real bread and butter. And people would always come in and ask for coffee grinds to take home and do various things with. So garden fertilizer, making their own bathroom products. And, the more he learned about how people were using them at home, that the brain started to like tick over and go, okay, there's something in this I'm noticing that people are liking to use it in the bathroom. Maybe there's something that we can do there. And we did a bit of research and realised that to get the best benefit when using caffeine topically, you should be using fresh grinds, because if you use recycled ones, the sustainability element is nice, but you're not getting much benefit because the caffeine's in the cup of coffee and no longer in the grind to use on your skin. So we started mixing things by hand using stuff we had in the kitchen. Like, you can't even call it a formula. It was a recipe at best. And got in the shower and used this stuff that made you feel absolutely ridiculous when you were using it. But the result was so beautiful compared to anything that we'd tried before, because the supermarkets were just full of, remember those old bottles? It was like orange gel with little microbeads in it, and that's what a body exfoliator was at the time. There was just nothing around.
Nothing.
Yeah, and this ticked so many boxes for us. It was really effective. It was really affordable. The ingredients were natural, so it was better for us, better as it washed
Smells
down the drain.
amazing.
Smells great. Yeah. And that's how it all started. Just so many things had to go right at the same time for Frank Body to turn into what it eventually did. And if one of those things hadn't happened, I often think we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
It's an amazing explosion of all the people that you just talked about combined, their backgrounds, their obvious entrepreneurial spirits all combining and creating something amazing.
Team effort.
Yeah. Well, it's just special and it's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were so fortunate that none of us would declare ourselves like entrepreneurs by nature. It was just, we kind of found our way into that, and then you fed off each other's energy and interest to do something a little bit different, and that kind of cultivated that spirit within everybody. And I imagine if I'd been on my own and not had these people in my life, would I be doing something completely different? It'd be interesting to know what I'm doing in a parallel universe.
I always think about that sort of stuff too.
Yeah, me too.
That, sliding doors
time.
moment.
Oh, so total sliding doors. If I'd never met Brie at my first job at Red Bull, none of this would have happened.
Oh my God, yeah, you girls used to be promo girls together.
We were. Oh yes.
That's right.
Honestly.
About that.
Best job in the world. I kid you not.
I used to do that too. You get paid so much and you just get to go out, have a good time with a group of friends, sell some product, eat and drink some product.
Seriously, we got paid to drive around in a car with your best mate all day.
How good. We should do that, Soph.
We've been past it now, baby. 20 young.
What do you mean? There's a whole group of mums out there we could influence, guys.
You're right.
So, Jess, it's undeniable that Frank Body really set a new benchmark for branding and creating not just a product, but a real identity and a voice behind the brand. Can you sort of talk us through a little bit about, I guess what you believe were the main contributing factors to it becoming such a success?
Good. Yeah, of course. We were, as consumers, really sick of being made promises by products or brands that they couldn't keep. I'd spent so much money on things that I thought were going to do something, and they did jack all when I used it. It was a really frustrating experience as a customer. So we were coming at it from two angles: that desire to just be very honest and upfront about what our product was, and very frank. So that was where the philosophy of let's be frank about everything, came from. We're like, this looks like dirt in a bag, but it's going to make your skin really smooth. It's quite a simple ingredient list, so let's not dress it up in bells and whistles. And then on the other side, we thought, okay, that's our philosophy. That's what we value, that honesty and frankness. How can we turn that into something really fun? And then we knew we were going to use Instagram to primarily market this. And at the time, there were no brands playing in that space. It was very much friend to friend or peer to peer. So to go in there with third-party corporate language just made no sense. We had to use the platform in the way that people were using it every single day. So we personified the brand with this character of Frank and sort of just slid into this space where people were talking with their friends and tried to, we had a really cheeky, down-to-earth tone of voice because that's how we talk with our friends, and we wanted to emulate that and make it something really relatable and really approachable, and whilst also then being very different to what was on offer in the rest of the beauty industry. And I think that was what people responded to. It was like nothing that they had seen before. Now it's a lot more commonplace. 10 years down the road, we know brands, that's how you have to play on social. But at the time, it wasn't something that had been done before and was a big part of why people connected to the brand. For us, it just made sense. Like it didn't even, wasn't like, this is genius. We're like, well, I just don't think any other way would work. So let's do it like that. Yeah.
Was it quite experimental in that way? Like, I suppose you wouldn't have realised, like, the power in which Instagram was going to kind of catapult brands and like where it is now. And I assume you had somewhat of a prediction or a hope, but like, was it just kind of experimental?
Very experimental. Word of mouth has and always will be the best form of marketing. So there was a strategy behind what we were doing in that coming to this place where people are talking about things that they like and create a way for them to talk about you. That was the goal. And so encourage them to be taking photos of the product and the brand and feel like they're part of a community.
Genius.
Yeah. So it's sort of marketing 101, just doing it in a new platform or a new space that people hadn't been doing it before. So the strategy was there, but it wasn't a proven concept on Instagram yet. So there was always an element of risk. But people really loved the opportunity to showcase that they were part of this brand, or people loved getting their kid off, which was really interesting.
Well, it's so fun. It's such a fun brand. Like, how could you not?
Yeah.
I want to go scrub right now after talking about all this scrub talk.
Send me a photo, Kate.
What was I going to say? I wanted to just ask quickly, like, how you feel about like your placement within not just Instagram, but social media now, because it is such a different landscape.
I feel like a geriatric trying to use social media now.
Oh my God. If you feel like that, then shit. What hope have the rest of us
We've got no hope.
Honestly, like when TikTok launched,
Are you on TikTok?
We are. Am I personally?
Okay. No. But
I hate it.
Yeah.
Are you on it, Kate?
No, but my 6-year-old she's not on it, but she keeps talking about it, coming home from school and being like, Mum, can we do a TikTok? I'm like, I don't really know how to use TikTok.
Oh, God, yeah.
But you can teach me.
Yeah, she can teach you. I might get Ellery to teach me. I'm sure she knows by now. Like I find social, I'm so grateful for it because obviously it was how we got our business out into the world. But the social that I knew growing up and launched Frank on is such a different place. Now it is so manicured and curated and filled with landmines. It's not an enjoyable place to be a lot of the time anymore. And it's really difficult for brands. People have a lot to say, and rightly so, because brands need to be held accountable for the shit that they do. But it can be, sometimes you can't put a foot right. No matter what you do, you're not going to be pleasing everybody. And I've noticed that with our clients at Willow and Blake and even internally at Frank, people become terrified to do anything on social for fear of retribution. So it's just the community aspect, I think, is lost. And I think
it's really competitive now as well, like super
competitive.
Is.
Yeah. there's a positive shift in that people are using social to talk about really meaningful issues and topics. I love that part, the sharing of information. And there's more respect from brands and influencers to stop talking about your coffee scrub when people's homes are being flooded. Like I think that is the most positive change we've seen. But it still scares me when I go on there. I'm like, I don't know what anyone's actual face looks like anymore, because it's just they're covered in filters. And what does this mean for my daughter in 15 years when she's on social? What's she going to be dealing with? A whole new layer of complexity added to it for me once she was born. So yeah, I have a real love-hate relationship.
We were just talking about this with our kids, weren't we, Soph? Obviously, Soph's honey's a little bit younger than my two girls, or especially particularly my older one, but the thought of technology for my kids freaks me out. But at the same time, we kind of have to go with what's happening, because you got to move forward, right? You know, even something really simple like a smartwatch. Like, all her friends at school have Garments. I'm like, she's too young for a Garmin. Or
Already?
She's talking about, like, do you post pictures of me on Instagram, mummy? All this stuff, and it freaks me out. But there's going to have to be some point where I'm going to have to go, okay, it's different to when I was a child, and we have to kind of, you know, move forward with the times. But I'm not ready, and I don't want to do it. And the day that she's on social media, like,
navigating it is weird because it's new to all of us.
But you also want to educate them about it, right?
Yeah, and how to use it safely and productively. So you can't avoid it completely. You have to help them learn how to navigate it. But holy shit, and it changes at a rate that I can't keep up with. So what I teach them today is wrong tomorrow, and yeah, it's really tricky. And I find the question of whether your children are present on social, even on your own feeds, is so topical. You know, I forget. I need to ask permission before I post a photo of anyone's child, and I just sort of forgot that in the moment, because I'm like, oh, that's so cute, Ellery and my friend's baby playing together. Post. I'm like, oh, maybe they didn't want their child out on the internet, and I've just broken a cardinal rule. It's it's a constant learning experience.
So how on earth have you managed to weave motherhood into the mix of your very busy career and your life? And how have you found the first year with your beautiful little Ellery? She's 1 or 1.5 now?
Yeah, she turned 1 in January, so about 15 months, almost 15 months. Oh my God, she's so fun. I'm loving this age, just cheeky little muffin with a new trick to play every single day. I went back to work when she was 7 months old, into my full-time job. I found the first few months really difficult because of the nature of my role. I still had to be quite present in the business, attending board meetings, and we were in the middle of a really, really big deal. We were closing a huge investment round in the business. So she was a couple of days old, and I was recovering from my C-section surgery on, you know, breastfeeding her on these meetings, trying to pay attention to what was being spoken about, completely sleep deprived. It was really, really difficult. I don't wish that experience on anybody. My business partners were amazing. They were supportive. It was more just bad luck in terms of the timing of these two things coinciding. And, you know, so I had those obligations each week or each fortnight or each month in the lead up to coming back. I never know how to talk about this because I don't think I'm fortunate. I think it's just the way that it should be. But before we even started trying for a child, my husband Dan and I had really clear expectations that parenting is 50-50. That you are not doing me a favor. You are not babysitting your child.
Yeah.
Really
I know how not when people say that. My husband's babysitting or my partner's babysitting. It's like, what? Babysitting? No, it's their child.
Parenting. That's what that's called.
Yeah.
We could do a whole podcast episode just on
my God.
terminology. So we talked about, all right, how could this work? I realistically don't think I could take a year away from my businesses, and I didn't want to. I really love what I do. So I wanted to find a way to make that work for us. And Dan really wanted to take time off and be the stay-at-home parent. So we're very much on the same page. So I took the first 7 months full-time, did a month transitioning back to work where I went part-time and he took over part-time. And then we had a nanny come and help a couple of days a week, just like 3 hours twice a week. Actually, it really wasn't very much, to give Dan a little bit of time to keep focusing on his work. And I was fortunate that I could work from home for a lot of that time. We were still in lockdown for half of it, so it was great in one sense, in that it was a bit of a soft transition into work, but also difficult because you'll both know what this is like. You're so finely attuned to every aspect of their day, every sound they make. I was backseat parenting from the office. Like, she wants this. That's what that sound means. So I
know.
I had to learn how to step back and let my very capable husband do his half and parent.
And learn in his own time.
Exactly, yeah.
And hearing your baby cry too, if you're probably on a Zoom meeting or something, and then you're like, oh, I physically feel like she needs me. I want to be in there, but I've got to be in here. Like, she's fine. She's in the other room. She's with her dad. It's all good.
Yep. And the clutch at your boobs is so real. We were still breastfeeding at the time, so I'd sort of schedule my meetings around feeding her, and it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but maybe my brain has just blocked it out. But I think
tend to do that.
I think we did okay. Yeah, we do, don't we?
That's why you go back for more babies, Soph.
I know, right? There has to be a biological blocker, or else we'd never do it again.
100%.
I found, truthfully, I became a better and happier mum once I returned to work, because I loved that adult stimulation. I love my daughter more than life itself, but I needed more than playing blocks for 12 hours a day. I needed to do something else, and it was just, that was what was right for me. The next person, completely wrong for them. They loved every minute of being home every day, and I think we just need to acknowledge that as parents and as women, we're all going to have different desires and different levels of comfort, and I really struggled with that. My work had been such a massive part of my identity, which is maybe problematic in its own right, but I missed that day-to-day and the creativity that came with that. So I really found I started to thrive once I got into the rhythm of balancing mum life
On creativity, how did you find the combination of like the mental load of being a new mum and then trying to be creative? Like, did it enhance it for you, or was it did it block it for you?
The first month, I really struggled to get my head into the right space for work. It was just, motherhood and parenthood is all consuming. You think about them every second of the day.
It's crazy.
It's so, like, I could never understand it until I was in it. So I did find that difficult at first. And then, I don't know, it was like a switch flipped. And Brie, my business partner, and I we love the saying, like, if you need something done, give it to a busy person. And I don't think there's anyone more busy than a mum on the planet. So you just make it work. You just get it done. You don't have time to like faff about anymore. So I found I was more decisive. You got so much shit to do. So you know what's wrong or right more quickly when you look at it. It allowed me to lean into my gut instincts a lot more. So there was definite positives from it.
It must be nice that your other partners have kids as well. You'd all sort of be on the same page of like, they need some space, they need some time off, they need, to kind of pick up where each other left off and really give each other the space to parent and be with children when they need to, and then sort of...
You can understand it as well.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that we all have kids, like all the founders, and even 99% of our heads of department are parents. And we all get, like, it's almost impossible to get us all in a room these days because someone's kid is sick or we have been struck down by childcare illnesses. So we're just in this constant, ebb and flow of who's available, who's sick. I reflect now, though, on the time before I had children, but we had team members that had children, and I wish I had been more educated about what they were going through so that we could have supported them better. And we did our best with what we had at the time, and we've always been very supportive of our parents coming and going from work, but I wish as a society there was a way we could be more educated about that and help our parents transition in and out of the workforce more. So that's a big project for me at the moment, working with our HR manager on creating a program that allows that. to happen more seamlessly and give parents more confidence when they come back into the workforce.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just such a complex topic.
Yeah, God. I think you don't, until you actually have a child, you don't understand how constant like the demands of like being a mum is or a dad is. It's just constantly in your mind. You're worrying about every little thing that's going to happen and what you've got to do in 3 hours time, 2 hours time, like how your child is right now, how they're going to be tomorrow. So it's constant. And I think I remember Soph saying to me when she had Honey, she was just like, I thought I knew what it was like to, you know, to have kids, and I thought I knew what it would be like, and fuck, like it's just not what I thought. It's so much more full on than what I thought.
You don't stop. You don't realize how many little parts of your day you're going to wave goodbye to, like just drinking your coffee in the morning while it's hot. And my microwave has never seen so much action. I was constantly reheating things.
Me too, Jess. And before I had a baby, I would have been like, ew, gross. I would never microwave my coffee.
Yeah.
That's like literally 4 times every day.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, is this ceramic cup going to withstand one more session in the microwave? Let's push it to the extreme and find out. Oh, yeah, you're right. Going to the bathroom, you're like, how? It was so much easier when they were little, I found, because you just plonk them wherever they needed to be and they'd stay there. Now, oh my God, she's just ripping the cupboards apart and trying to injure herself in any way she can.
You're so busy at this age, and it just gets busier, Jess.
Great. Can't wait.
So Jess, prior to falling pregnant with Ellery, you experienced pregnancy loss, and coming from my own personal experience, I know how incredibly difficult and isolating this can be. If you feel comfortable, can you share with us your story?
Yeah, I am so comfortable sharing it because I think that that's what we all need to do so that the next person that goes through it doesn't feel as caught off guard as I did. So I knew miscarriage happened, but I did not know anything about the stats. I had no idea that it was 1 in 4 pregnancies. And that's not even 1 in 4 people, 1 in 4 pregnancies.
It's a lot.
It's just crazy.
So
if we had it's just unbelievably common how often it happens, and then so strange how little we talk about it and how little information there is available. So I fell pregnant. I had a really strange experience. We started trying 1 month and then my period just never arrived for 8 weeks. And so we know something strange happened there, because then when it did arrive, it was the most horrific period of my life, but I'd never tested positive on any pregnancy test in the lead up to that. So it was we started off this journey with this really confusing period of so regular, and then we try, and then my period goes missing for 2 months. Then this really intense period arrives. And then the next month I fell pregnant, and we thought, okay, that was really strange. We don't know what happened there, but yay, I'm pregnant. This is amazing. I was so excited. And I went to the doctor to confirm the pregnancy a few days later. And I got a call saying, oh, your HCG levels are quite low. So we want to monitor this and make sure that they're doubling in the right way. So I was about 6 weeks along at that point. I went in a couple more times for blood tests and then got a phone call from the doctor. I remember it happening too. It was the week that the bushfires were happening, and I'd taken that week off work and I was sitting on the beach by myself down in the peninsula where we lived at the time. And I just knew I was going to get this phone call with some bad news. And I got a call and they said, look, your HCG levels aren't rising enough for us to feel confident that this pregnancy is going to stick around, and we want you to be prepared for the fact that it probably won't. The doctor I was dealing with was definitely lacking some bedside manner, to be honest, but I was just absolutely devastated, and then just sitting there for the next few days or the next week waiting to miscarry.
Yeah, like what a message to leave you with. Like,
they're very straight to the point, doctors, I think, in that regard, like, because they're so used to seeing these things happen on a daily basis, but a lot of the time they don't really kind of think about how you're feeling, on the other end of the phone, or sitting in their office, wherever it might be.
I remember him going, "Oh, my colleague is much better at dealing with this sort of stuff." I'm like, what
Oh.
is this sort of stuff? Like human life, you're not capable of doing that as a GP because you might be in the wrong field, mate.
Yeah.
So I started to miscarry about a week later.
Oh,
It was horrific. I remember just calling my mum and wailing down the phone because I just didn't understand why it was happening. And I know that was the Saturday, and for some stupid reason, I didn't tell anybody else. And I came to work on the Monday like nothing had happened. And, it was the start of the year. I felt like I needed to be present for my team. It was the dumbest thing. And I just zipped it up and didn't deal with it properly. And then I finally started talking about it. We didn't try to have a baby for the next 2 months and, on medical advice. And I was lucky enough to fall pregnant again quite quickly. But I was terrified the entire time. And pregnancy is already scary enough. And I spent the next 9 months just every hour of every day so in tune with what was going on in my body, terrified that something was going to happen to this baby. I remember the day, I think I was about 8 or 9 weeks along, and I woke up one day and I didn't feel sick. And instead of being relieved, I was like, oh my God, something's wrong. Yeah, something's wrong. And I went to the emergency department, like I lost my last baby and I woke up today feeling fine and I shouldn't. I'm only 9 weeks along. And they were fantastic, taking my bloods, but they didn't have anyone available to scan me to look at the baby. So I had to sit there waiting for my HCG levels to come back again. And, they called and said, we don't think you have anything to worry about. Like the blood work's come back. You are very, very pregnant. You're probably just having a good day. Try and relax and be happy about that.
Bless them.
I know. I couldn't. I was just constantly scared.
It's difficult because you're going through a grief and obviously you've fallen pregnant again and, you're excited and I'm, grateful that you're pregnant, but it's so hard to just completely forget about what's just happened a couple of months before. And, I remember feeling exactly the same as you after I'd experienced a miscarriage, and then I fell pregnant a few months later. I just felt anxious the entire time, the whole pregnancy.
Yep.
It was like I just couldn't enjoy the feeling of, I'm having a baby. It was like, what if something goes wrong?
Exactly. You feel frustrated, like you've been robbed a bit of just the joyful part of pregnancy. And then you feel guilty for feeling that way because you're like, oh, I should feel grateful that I'm pregnant. And then, it's this, no one's telling you that. It's just this complex narrative that you're building in your head because the next person can't fall pregnant. So I should be grateful that I'm here and blah, blah, blah. It's just exhausting. But then I think that's parenthood as well. You're constantly anxious from the moment they arrive until the day we die.
Yeah. It's hard in that situation for you though, like to miscarry before having your first child or your first healthy pregnancy, because there's enough pregnancy anxiety as it is. Even if you have like a textbook pregnancy, everyone still worries.
Exactly.
So to go through it like that it's pretty intense. And these are the sorts of things that people just don't really talk about enough. And I think it's really comforting for people going through similar things, just be like, okay, the chatter in my mind is somewhat normal, or at least other people are experiencing it.
Yeah,
and I'm not going through this alone.
I like to talk about it now because I just wish I had known how common it could be and at least be prepared for it to be a thing that could happen. But I was just like, I'm pregnant, I'll have a healthy baby. That's not how it works. There are so many things that need to go right for it to get there. So I like to share that story to make the next person feel less alone or more prepared. Hopefully it helps someone.
Yeah, well, good on you. We appreciate you talking about it and sharing it with us today. So as Kate mentioned a little earlier, we're really interested to talk to you a bit about how this pandemic that we've all been living through and how the working from home model has changed the landscape for so many businesses. Firstly, like, how have you guys been navigating that? How's that experience been for you and your business?
Challenging and tiring, to be honest. Our team have been absolutely fantastic in that regard. More that I found it exhausting to have every meeting be conducted where I was just sitting at my computer, staring at people through a screen. It was hard to keep people engaged. The same as every business. Like that was tiring day in and day out. And I work in the creative side of the business, so I found it particularly difficult to get the best out of people in that environment.
A little uninspiring.
It is very uninspiring.
You want to like bounce off each other and be in the room together, and
Yes.
You can't.
There's still this desire for like, you know, culture and connectivity and socialization at the end of the day. There's only so long that you can just continue to give your best work from behind a computer screen.
100%. We were feeling that way, so we had no doubt our team were feeling that way. We were so fortunate. We have a group within our business called Babes Trust. So we've had that around for many, many years. It's our kind of culture committee made up of people from different departments in the business. So even pre-pandemic that existed. And they were responsible for driving team bonding activities outside of work. And they were so amazing at taking that into an online initiative, and they ran it for 2 straight years through the pandemic. I honestly don't know where they were drawing their energy reserves from. They were just such champions of building the culture and maintaining the culture in the team in such difficult times. And, you know, managed to find a way. We onboarded so many team members through the pandemic. So we met people for the first time in real life in December that had been working with us for months and months and months. We are finally back in our new office. We built that and we were opening it in October when we went back into lockdown. I think I can't remember the dates.
It's hard to
but
keep track of the lockdowns.
It is. The date we were opening it, the new lockdown started the day before or something like that. We thought, well, I guess it'll just stay empty for a few months longer. Now we're doing a hybrid model where people work from home 2 days a week and come into the office 3 days a week. And I think it's the best thing that ever happened to us and probably a lot of other businesses, because it gives people that relief from the commute, especially the parents in the team. We're already rushed enough as it is trying to get the whole household organised in the morning. You just get a bit of time back, a little bit of your own space, and then that benefit of the community and team environment on the days that you're in, and you're excited to be here rather than go...
Probably more productive then in return as well.
100%. Yeah. Productivity is definitely increased, and general happiness levels seem to be higher, as much as people are still very much fatigued because of everything that they've gone through. I notice they're excited on the days that they're in here, and I feel that way too, rather than dragging your ass to the office 5 days a week. You look forward to those few days a week that you do have in there. So that's been our approach so far, and it's going okay.
It's interesting. I think about, or have been thinking about this a lot, how this, you know, new working from home or like a hybrid model, like you're saying, some part at home, some part at work, has kind of like catapulted us into this new work-life crossover. And with so much online, even it's sort of catapulted us into this new digital era as well, I feel. And not to get too techie, but I often think about the rate that digital technology is changing, which obviously creates like extraordinary new opportunities to improve productivity and effectiveness and work-life integration. But at the same time, it's creating all of these real challenges like information overload and the expectation of like 24/7 connectivity, and how this kind of plays into parenting and families and, you know, where we draw the line. And it's kind of like been a bit of a bomb dropped on us, like this is the new way that we work now. What are your thoughts on that for families and mums and, you know?
Oh, even for any individual, it is so toxic to be available 24 hours a day. We use Slack like a lot of businesses. So we use that pre-pandemic as well as our communication tool internally. And they have an app for your phone. I don't know, do you guys use Slack at all?
No, I don't even know what it is.
So it's like an instant message system, and you can talk to anyone in the team, and you create little channels so that, like project channels, a sort of a project communication tool, an instant message tool that takes over a lot of email. It's fantastic for daily communication, but because it has an app on your phone, it's so easy to then just be working 24 hours a day. You get up and Slack goes off, and you're walking your dog and Slack goes off. So I deleted that from my phone. I'm like, we're not doing surgery here. No one needs to be available 24 hours a day to talk about coffee scrub. This is just stupid. So trying to encourage my team to do the same thing. And I can see some of them really, really struggle. Like mine too, I've said this to her face so many times, and if she listens to this, she'll laugh. I'm like, delete Slack off your phone, please. Like you need to
Next minute it's beeping on her phone. Beep, beep.
She really struggles. Like she's struggling to make that cut, and then that has a flow-on effect through to the rest of the team. So we need to get better as leaders, sort of demonstrating that it's okay to take downtime, because then that's more important than everything we do at work. And then when we are present at work, just be fully present in that moment and then leave it there, and then be fully present in the next moment, whether that's by yourself, with your friends, or with your family. So I really worry about that side of digital connectedness. Like there can be great things, but it's very hard to draw a line in the sand and differentiate between your personal time and your work time when the lines are so blurred.
Yeah. It's just funny because like now it's acceptable to like sit in a meeting and have your crying baby, or, you know, have your dog barking, or and it's great. Like it makes it a lot more efficient for some people. And like you said, like there's definitely positives that come out of it, you know, not having to commute, not having that sort of like drag of the 5 days a week. Like it almost already feels like a very old-fashioned model of working. But yeah, that's this sort of new expectation of like, you know, it's okay to still work in your pajamas from home, and it's, you know, it's really hard. And I think I've just personally found it difficult because I already find like the juggle of working and motherhood in my mind, like emotionally, so challenging. This new added level of like expectation from digital connectivity is just like, it's just too much. It's too much to bear.
I feel like every part of my life wants all of me. Like the parent part wants all of me, the work part wants all of me, but there's only one all of me, and it can't be everywhere at once. There's elements of it that have been really positive though. So Ella is in childcare 3 days a week, and I drop her off at a childcare near my office, and digital becomes really handy then because they have this amazing app. So I know what's going on with her.
You can see
all
her,
day.
what she's doing.
I don't know if you guys have that. You get updates on like she had a wet nappy, she is asleep, she ate lunch, here's a photo. That helps me as a mum returning to work feel so much more confident that she is okay. And without that, I'd probably really struggle to drop her off with, you know, people who are essentially strangers to me. But then I see how much she's thriving in that environment too, and her development has come leaps and bounds in the 3 months since she started in childcare. She's I think that's where she's getting so much of this curiosity and confidence from, because she's learning it from the kids around her. She's making friends. Like, I go in there and they're like, she's really good friends with this kid, Millie. I'm like, she has a friend. That's amazing.
God, my daughter's best friend's name is Millie too.
It's just such a cute name.
I know we're kind of over talking about the pandemic because let's just be honest, we all want to move on from the pandemic. We want normal, you know, living back. But, you know, there must be something. What was a positive, I guess, that came out of, you know, being stuck at home for you, particularly being a new mum? Was there anything sort of great that came out of that time for you?
Oh, yeah. I find it really hard to say, like, this part was good because so many people suffered through COVID. And we definitely had our hard parts. Like my husband's business got completely shut down and then eventually had to close because of the pandemic. So we had things that were really challenging for us as a family, but then positives in that we'd actually moved down to the peninsula about maybe 8 or 9 months before. So we were so fortunate then we had this acre that was our space that we could hide away in. And I fell pregnant during the pandemic, I gave birth during the pandemic, and then I had new motherhood in the pandemic. So it was very different to the experience I thought I'd had. But when I was exhausted at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I wasn't stuck at my desk. I could just go have a lie down on the couch and have a nap. That was really handy. And then pop back up to work, you know, an hour later when I'd recovered. So there were things like that that made the physical transition of pregnancy and motherhood a lot easier. And we had really beautiful moments together as a family that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise. So it's good to focus on them rather than just the stuff that you feel like was taken away from you during the
Yeah.
pandemic. So it forced us to reevaluate what was important to us as well. I think everyone went through that experience. We had deeper conversations with each other about what we wanted life to look like and what we valued, and you had the space to have those kind of conversations. So I don't know if did you find that in your households?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Things that you probably wouldn't have talked
About.
about or had the time to talk about.
I feel like priorities changed a little bit. You know, you realised what was really important and more things that you wanted to focus on, particularly like moving forward and in the future. And all the extra time, from my perspective, like that I got with my young kids as well, that me and my husband would not have had that together with our kids at these ages if it wasn't for the pandemic. In saying that, like, you know, like everyone, it was certainly, there was the ups and downs, but there was, you know, some nice moments that came from the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
It is just nice to remember some good things out of it.
Here's us trying to make it a good thing. Oh.
There has been so much suffering, and there's just so much suffering in the world right now. Like, it's a weird time to sort of be positive, really. But I think it's also nice just to, you know, be in the world that we are in and just, you know, appreciate that and still talk about that, you know, the good things in it.
Yeah, it's I feel energetically things feel so strange right now, not to get too like woo-woo on everybody, but I know you think like this, so it's okay. You know, the world is a really strange place right now, and finding that balance of being grateful for the things that we do have, but then not falling into that toxic positivity where we just pretend everything is fine, because it's not. There's so much shit going wrong, and it's okay to have those moments of anger and frustration as well. So I don't know about you guys. I feel like a bit of a pendulum swinging back and forth between two extremes.
Constantly.
And the motherhood rage thing is really real. No one
my
told
gosh.
me about this, that I would just feel so fucking angry out of nowhere. Like,
all the time.
All the time. I wish I'd known about that.
Sometimes I just literally walk, my kids, I'm just going to walk out of the room just for 2 seconds, or I'm actually going to lose my fucking mind. And then I come back in 10 minutes later, I'm like, cool, all good.
We good.
Just yelled at a wall for 10 minutes.
Hiding in a cupboard, screaming into a pillow.
Jess, we honestly could talk to you for hours and hours on end.
Forever.
But we know a lot of people would be tuning into this, you know, to hear about your career journey and your business journey. So we're just interested to ask for what your little piece of advice would be for people who are building a brand or running a business at the same time as raising young kids, because it's a conversation that comes up a lot between, you know, amongst our groups and amongst our friends. What's your little piece of advice on it?
Oh, God, is there a little piece of advice I can give? It's so dependent, I think, on the stage that you're at in your business. We were fortunate that, you know, my businesses were 10 and 8 years old, respectively, when I went on maternity leave. So they were in a really stable place with a lot of staff, and I could step away from my day-to-day role. Had I had Ellery a few years earlier, it would have been a really different case, and I would have been probably back at work within a couple of weeks trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
I think the best piece of advice I can give is to just be gentle with yourself. You don't strive for balance, because it does not exist. Just try and find a rhythm that works for you. And I prefer that word so much, because balance just the word assumes that everything is in equilibrium and that things are all going okay, and they're not. Like, you're going to have a fire over here that you can't put out because you're dealing with something over here, and just accept that that's going to be the way things go. The former version of the way you worked no longer exists. Like, you have to just cut ties with things and accept your new normal and find ways to peacefully work with
Such great advice.
Yeah, it took me a while to work it out.
But
It's really
and then, like, go scream in a cupboard occasionally if I need to.
Okay, guys, I don't do this like on a daily basis. Okay, maybe I do. Jess, we really should let you go, although we don't want to. Like, I would happily keep chatting to you forever.
Me too. It's nice.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been our absolute pleasure to have you here today, and we really appreciate it.
Especially
Thanks,
with your
Kate.
cold and your bout of gastro in your house. You're a
I keep putting myself on mute to blow my nose. I'm so sorry. The video is going to look so unattractive if anyone's watching.
No, you look great. I love your purple jumper.
Yeah, you look
Oh,
gorgeous.
thanks. Yeah, it's fun, this one. But thank you so much, Kate and Soph. It was really lovely to chat and just have such an honest conversation about the clusterfuck that is motherhood and parenthood and working. It's a beautiful
Spicy cocktail.
mess.
Yes,
Spicy cocktail. It's a spicy marg. That's what it is.
Yes. Yum. I could totally go one of them right now.
I think we have some at 2:30 today. Our team is popping off and making some spicy margs.
See
Come
you
round
there.
if you want them.
Cheers to that, darling.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks,
Talk
ladies.
soon.
Bye, Jess.
Bye.